What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Caleb Davis, and I have notes. Before we get started today, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And also make sure to follow us on X at peerreview_pod and on TikTok at Peer Review Podcast. First of all, I just want to give a Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Hope everyone had a great holiday. I did. Got to spend some time with the family. Always nice coming together because we don't, as we get older, we don't get as much time together as we like. So always good spending time together. But for today, I have a couple of things that I want to cover. So for starters, I want to touch on two of the Christmas games, the two that I felt were kind of the highlights of the night. So starting with the Celtics versus the Sixers and our kind of first big look at Philadelphia's big three with Maxey Embiid and Paul George. And then I'm going to talk about the Lakers versus the Warriors and just another classic rivalry matchup between LeBron and Curry. That was an insane game. Kept you on the edge of your seats. And then I'm going to close out the show with storylines to look out for, players to watch moving forward this season, and standings trends as things currently stand. Now, for Philly's big three of, like I said, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George, but on that, in the game against the Celtics, it was really Caleb Martin filling in the place of Paul George. It felt like the first true glimpse of what that trio could do, like playing together. This was like one of the first full games that they've had playing on the court together, and I felt like Embiid and Maxey specifically looked really good during stretches in this game. They both had their opportunities, like in crucial moments. Like Embiid really stepped up in the fourth, knocking down free throws, getting to the line when the game kind of felt a little shaky. Maxey did a lot of damage just during the entire game. Like no one on the Celtics could stay in front of him. He kept getting downhill. That he made like this crazy layup with like 0.2 seconds left. Like he fumbled the ball, still got it up and made it. Like just insane play from him. But they also got contributions from role players. One guy, and I want to give him a big shout out because he's a Miami guy, but Caleb Martin, he stepped up as a sharpshooter in this game. And he kind of just showed his value to Philly's system because he's been shooting pretty bad for his standards this season. So it was nice for him to kind of hop out of that slump. He's one of the many role players that Miami has let go for absolutely nothing. So I was a little disappointed when I found out he was leaving the team this season. But wishing him the best. He's been solid for Philly, but I kind of like he kind of feels like the Celtics like nemesis at this point. Like as a Heat fan, it feels like he kind of has like a grudge against Boston. Like every time he goes up against them, it feels like he hits a ton of shots. He plays really well. Like in this game, he was 7 for 9 from three, and the Celtics were just kind of daring him to shoot. Like they were giving him space, letting him, and I think it's because he's been in a slump. Like you're testing him, but you would think after he knocked down 3 or 4, like you'd start getting out there. Nope, they never did. I also I remember he almost won Eastern Conference Finals MVP like 2 seasons ago against the Celtics. Like when he just caught fire in that series. Like just something about him when he goes up against the Celtics that I don't know. He finds a way, and he was just punishing them all night, open looks and performing in big moments. I also kind of think like the Sixers kind of keys to victory in this game. One was their turnover management. I thought Philly did a really good job limiting turnovers and just keeping the game in the half court because their offense works really well when they're able, especially with Embiid. They like to play at a slower pace, keep things in the half court, like I mentioned, and they just did a good job of this. They weren't turning the ball over, and they also capitalized on turnovers when they presented themselves, like they were doing, especially Tyrese Maxey, doing a great job getting down transition, and when opportunities presented themselves, they made the most of it. And they kind of led pretty heavily in the first 2 quarters. Like that's kind of they were up big, and then the Celtics kind of surged back in the third and fourth, but they never were able to actually take the game back over. Now, on the Celtics side of things, they had some inconsistencies at the start. Like Tatum and Jaylen Brown both started off pretty bad shooting wise. Jaylen Brown, like he was forcing a lot of shots, a bunch of threes, mid ranges, at the layups at the basket. Like he was trying to draw fouls. They weren't blowing the whistle. He had 4 turnovers in the first half. So just it was a rough first half for him. And then Tatum also was just missing shots. I thought he was settling a bit at the beginning of the game. They both did, however, find their rhythm. Tatum found his like at the end of the second quarter. He had like 2 back-to-back threes. But It was in the second half where they both were amazing. Like they both were hitting key threes. Jaylen Brown kind of got going off Tatum getting downhill, kicking the ball out to him. He hit one like quick three on like where was he? Like the left corner. That kind of loosened the game up for him a little bit. But the biggest thing was like Tatum, especially when Embiid was out and the Sixers didn't have a shot blocker on the floor. He was just getting downhill every single time, and he's bigger and stronger than everybody. That like I feel like he should take advantage of that more often, especially when there's not a rim protector on the floor. And he was doing it. He was getting downhill, drawing fouls, and getting offensive rebounds. He got a block. Like he was doing a lot against Philly's smaller lineup. But my overall game takeaways from this, like I mentioned at the start, Philly's big three, they look promising. And especially if you can figure out a way to get Paul George going, because if Maxey and Embiid, like I get Embiid's working himself back into shape. If he can stay healthy for extended stretches, you can get Maxey staying healthy. And then Paul George, I'm cutting him a little bit of slack because he has been injured for the majority of the season. And he's also playing an entirely new role on an entirely new team. Like he's the third option. He's never this is all new for him, and he hasn't had a lot of time to gel with these guys. So he's been shooting the ball pretty bad for his standards. Like he's on around like 31% from three on the season, not hitting shots at the rate that you like, but I think he'll start to get it going as the season continues to progress. But if he continues to struggle, that contract is starting to look a little more scary for Philadelphia moving forward. But I have faith. I have faith in him. I talked a little bit about Boston and their inconsistencies in the first half, and that kind of is what set them back in the game. They were having to fight back pretty much the entire game, and it's a lot to try and overcome when you're going against a team like Philly. Even though even though their record is not that good on the season, they still have star power, and when their stars play like that's just the biggest thing. They haven't had their stars available, so they're finally starting to have that consistency. So they're still a really good team. And I don't know. I think this game just kind of showed a couple of the strengths and weaknesses that you can look for going forward in both these teams. Like I get Drew Holiday didn't play, but overall the Celtics were pretty whole. Porzingis wasn't there for a good portion as well, but that's what you're gonna get with the Celtics. Now moving on, the Lakers versus the Warriors. It's always just exciting when these two legends face off against each other, and this game was no exception. Early in the game, AD went out. He tweaked his ankle in the first quarter. But this, as shocking as this may sound, I still have faith in the Lakers because it feels like this has been like a recurring thing. AD's been very healthy over the last couple of seasons. I'm not trying to throw like slight at his name or anything, but it feels like every time the Lakers match up against the Warriors in specific, he gets injured and they have to play the game without him, and LeBron comes up super big, and it feels like this has happened time and time again. So I was kind of, yes, they were playing without D'Lo as well, but I don't know. I just had faith, especially like LeBron came out in these past couple of games, the past few weeks. He's just looked a lot more locked in on both ends, and he did his thing. Now, early in the game when AD went out, you could kind of tell what direction they were going, running Rui at the 5, and that's something they've been using a lot more lately, which worked out in their benefit because they've had reps and repetition, like practicing with Rui at the 5, and I think it just opens the floor a lot more for them, and it just provides better spacing because he's a better shooter than Anthony Davis, and it just opens up things a lot more for LeBron, especially like getting downhill, getting to the rim. Like you could just tell, like the floor is just a lot more space when Rui's out there at the 5. As far as the game flow, it was a pretty close contest. The game stayed close for most of the night with momentum swings back and forth, but the Lakers pretty much led the entirety of the game, and like they'd go up, anywhere from like 2 to like 9 points. They'd take a lead. But the fourth quarter is where things started to kind of bog down a bit, and the Lakers had a stretch with 3 turnovers and 4 possessions, and they also couldn't get stops toward the end of the game. And it just kind of allowed the Warriors to stay in it. And then Rui picked up his 5th foul in the middle of the fourth. And it was earlier in the fourth. I think it was around like the 8-minute mark. Forced LeBron to come back in a little earlier than they probably intended. And LeBron was playing center for a good portion of this. when Rui picked up that foul because, you want to keep him out there. He's like the only other with all their front court depth like depleted. Like you need Rui and LeBron out there. That's like all you have really. As far as key moments though in this game, I think the Lakers did a great job defend like their scheme on defending Curry. They didn't always capitalize, but Lakers, I think they did a great job blitzing Curry and kind of showing hard on screen. So especially Rui, like I just think he's improved a lot as a defender this season. And as of late, he just tries a little harder, but he was just doing a solid job coming up at the level of the screen. So he would come up, show a little bit, and not allow Steph to get downhill. And it would also just allow whoever the defender was, whether that was Austin, usually Max or Cam, to just recover so you're not giving Steph an open look. The biggest point in the game, though, I felt like, as the Warriors were starting to come back, was Curry got a drive, and he just missed a wide open reverse layup, like something he's going to make 99% of the time. He just happened to miss it. And I felt like this is where the game kind of catapulted until he went on that flurry. But after he missed the layup, LeBron got the rebound, threw it down court, and he found a wide open three. And I kind of thought this was like the turning point in the game. From that point on, though, things kind of went off the rail. The Lakers continued to dominate after that possession, forcing turnovers, getting stops, dominating the glass. But then Curry just decided to go crazy, as to be expected, which is why you can never count him out. Like, especially whenever he plays LeBron, like it's an insane matchup. So I'm going to talk about the clutch performances because I thought three guys played really, really well down the stretch. Austin Reeves and LeBron, of course, for the Lakers. They both step up, making big plays. Austin hit the game winner. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but just great play out of them. But as far as Curry, he just did a good job keeping it close. He hit a huge three to cut the lead from 104 to, it was at 104 to 96. He brought it to 104-99, so they trailed by 5. Then LeBron comes down and responds. He hits the three at the top of the key, and that's when I kind of was like, okay, this game feels a little more safe. And then again, Curry just starts going crazy. He hits like this smothered three in the right corner over LeBron, like just a shot. Only Curry, like it was great defense, but Curry's gonna make that shot sometimes, and you just gotta live with that. But he hits a contested three in the corner, gave the Warriors some life, kept the momentum going, and then later on down the game to tie the game, Max Christie tried to point switch with, I think it was Austin. I don't remember. It was Draymond setting the screen. It was an illegal screen, by the way. It didn't get called, obviously, because you can't call that. They're not going to call that at that moment in the game. But they didn't get out to Curry, and Curry gets a wide open three. Yes, Steph Curry gets a wide open three. It was deep, but he can hit that shot. And he did hit that shot. And they tied the game. The Lakers come down, try and inbound the ball, and they're trying to get it to LeBron. Draymond's denying it. So they get it to Austin. And this was a mess up on Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not really sure like what he was thinking, but Austin Reeves has the ball on the left wing, and he's kind of just standing there jabbing, reading the defense. He has Andrew Wiggins on him, a really good defender. So if you're a Warriors fan, you're like, I kind of like this matchup. Jonathan Kuminga is face guarding Rui Hachimura out of bounds. Like Rui tries to like clear out. He's in the left corner, tries to like clear out towards like the right block area. And Jonathan Kuminga just has his back to the ball and to everything going on. And I'm just thinking like in that moment, what could Rui possibly do while he's standing out of bounds, like in that short amount of time? Like, I don't know what he was thinking right there, but he offers no help. Austin Reeves blows right by Andrew Wiggins, gets a layup, and that's the game. And this was just an insane game for both teams. Both teams really needed this game. I think it was good for the Lakers because it kind of showed that this team is worth investing in. Again and again, we keep talking about this. We keep hitting this point with the Lakers management, like make a move, improve this roster, trust in these guys because they keep showing you that they're worthy and nothing is being done. And then on the Warriors front, I think it just shows that one, like Curry, they need more firepower on Curry if they really want to make some noise in the West. They started off the season really hot. Things have kind of cooled down a bit. Schroeder's still trying to get acclimated. His fit is still a little iffy, but I think that's just going to take more time. But that's the biggest thing. Get these guys more help. Like, you see how they're performing. You see that they're still capable. Don't continue to wait and wait and wait until it's too late. Now, one more thing on that game that I kind of wanted to talk about was LeBron's comments at the end of the game on the Christmas Day, and it was like classic LeBron being a showman at the end of the game. But as he was leaving, like with his exit interview, leaving off the court after the game, he just said the NBA, like he loves the NFL, but the NBA owns Christmas Day, and I think he's absolutely right. I think the tradition of it's been going on for since before I was born, but marquee matchups on Christmas has been a staple for basketball fans. I feel over the years, like I always remember Christmas Day, especially when I missed those Christmas unis. Like I reposted LeBron's tweet talking about how he missed them. Like it's just it's so fun being able to sit around the couch, watch NBA games all day with my dad or just friends, family, whoever's over. And while the NFL games, they're still entertaining, obviously, but the NBA holds a special place on Christmas holiday. I'll just leave it at that. That's my opinion on that. Now, on to my storylines to look out for. I'm going to touch on this really quickly, but the Kings just lost their fourth straight, and it was a bad loss, if I'm being completely honest. They were playing the Pistons, and they led for the majority of this game. They were up big in the second, they were up big in the third, they were up big in the fourth. They were up 18 in the third, and they were up 15 in the fourth with 6 minutes left. And I just, like, if you're watching the game, I don't really understand how they blew this game. But shout out, props to the Pistons. They just hung around. They got stops. And the biggest thing for them was they were able to score at the free throw line. And this is extremely valuable because you're stopping the game and adding points to the board. So, you accumulate 5 or 6 points from the free throw line in a 2-minute span. Like, that can make a big difference. And they capitalized off this. Now, I say it's a demoralizing loss because they ended the game they gave Jaden Ivey a 4-point play to end the game. So that was the game over. Like, they lost on a game-winning 3, like, and 1-3. It just sucks. But the biggest thing is when you're up games like this, when you're up that big and you get walked down, especially in the midst of an already tough losing streak, it starts to take a toll on your players and just on the psyche of the team. Like, it's disappointing. And yes, the season is far from over, but part of me, like, I'm not mad at if the Kings continue to lose. I hope De'Aaron Fox, I love seeing players move around. Like, I would not be mad if he ends up requesting out a sack or if they end up moving him because he's not going to resign. And I hope he ends up with the Spurs, and that'll kind of segue into my next topic. But one quick shout out on the Pistons. They're sitting at 14 and 17 on the season, and they're currently at the 9th seed. Last season, they only won 14 games as a whole. So just props to them on this continued improvement. Cade Cunningham is just an insane player. Jaden Ivey is starting to come into his own. Guys, the team is starting to gel. Our shooters are shooting. And I just couldn't be – I'm happy for the team, and I'm happy to see this continued growth. And who knows? Like, the Pistons might end up making it. Like, I think they'll be a play-in team this year. Like, I think Philly will knock the Bulls out, and it'll be like that top 10. But they might move their way up, and maybe, I don't know if the Hawks start to trail off, or you never know. But they could be a legit playoff team this year, which would be so exciting to see for them and just so crucial for their growth and development as a young core moving forward. Now, for my players to watch, one guy that I've just really had my eye on like all season is Victor Wembanyama. He is just an insane player. Like, the things that he does on a night-to-night basis are just mind-boggling, bro. Like, you don't. It's insane. Like, he's on this season. Well, he's averaging. In his last 15 games, he's averaging 34.2 points, 10.3 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, and shooting 50% from the field and 39% from 3. What are you going to do with that? The Spurs are currently sitting at 15 and 15 in the stacked Western Conference. Like, if you look around, every team in the West is good, and they're still finding a way to win games, hold up. And I think something that's been understated a bit is his supporting cast, like Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Chris Paul. Like, guys have been contributing. It hasn't just been Wemby, but obviously he's leading that charge. The Spurs look really good, though, I will say. Now, I just want to talk about Wemby a little bit. Like, his offensive skill set, and especially, we already knew he could score at all three levels. He's solid in the post, he's solid in isolation. But the biggest thing for him has been his willingness to take three-pointers, which, especially at the rate that he's shooting, and every shot from three that he shoots is essentially open because no one can contest him. And he specifically, like, I watch a lot of the games, he likes to pick and pop towards the top of the key. And this is one of the hardest spots for bigs to close out, which works so much in his favor because let's say a big closes out to him super fast. He's quick enough and he has the ball handling ability. He can just drive right by you, rip through, make a move. Like, he's heading to that point where he's just going to be completely unguardable. And I don't know what you do with him moving forward in the league. And as long as he stays healthy, like, he is going to have an insane career. Now, like, on his defensive side, like I said, he's averaging 4 blocks per game, which leads the league by far. The runner-up is Walker Kessler, and he's at 2.9 blocks, which is really good. But when you have a freaking alien that's your competition, it's going to change the way you're viewed a little bit. But he just does an amazing job. And then one more thing on Victor. He's in his second season, and he's already sitting at, he's 6th right now in the Kia MVP odds. So he's just on an insane trajectory. And it's just been so exciting to watch. I love watching Spurs games. I'm a big Chris Paul fan, but I don't watch the Spurs for him. But it's exciting to see him play with Wemby and he does a great job with that young team, keeping them together. And it's just, I'm excited for the Spurs moving forward. Now, for my last topic today, I just want to talk about the standings trends, and we're going to stick in the East today. The two teams that I've been kind of keeping my eye on are Philadelphia and Milwaukee. They're both rising in the standings after having horrible starts to the season. The Bucks are 16-13, and they're 5th in the East, and they continue to move up. They just had a tough loss to the Nets, and real quick, I just want to talk about this real quick, but it kind of annoyed me watching the end of that game. The Bucks were down 3, and Bobby Portis decided to double team Ben Simmons at the 3-point line and give up a 4-point play, which was just a horrible decision on so many levels. Because why are you double teaming Ben Simmons, who's he's an insane passer? Like, even in his diminished capacity right now, he's still a great passer and a solid floor general. 1, 2, he can't shoot. He's not gonna shoot. Why are you double teaming him out there? It made no sense. And then to give up a 4-point play, they deserve to lose that game. In all honesty. So, but Giannis and Dame didn't play, so I'll cut them some slack. But they've been solid as the season's progressed. And it's been nice seeing Chris Middleton kind of return to form. I think he's looked pretty good in his return, and he's only going to add to their offensive firepower. I think he's still a solid defender. He has more size. Just he's a better player than Taurean Prince, who they had starting at small forward. So fits right in, and they're just going to continue to gel with him, Giannis, and Dame in the lineup. And the Bucks look like they could be something in the East as the season moves forward. Now, for the one other team, the 76ers, they're 11-17 on the season, which isn't that good, and they're the 12th seed. But I just want to mention they weren't healthy for the majority of this season, and they're finally starting to string together some wins in the East. I think they're on a 2-game winning streak. And in the Eastern Conference, because it's so depleted, it's not that hard to move up in the standings, and give them about a month, and they'll definitely be back in somewhere between like 5 and 8. They'll move up. So I'm excited for them. Maybe not 5 and 8 in the East. I'd give them that. Maybe 5 and 9, somewhere in between that portion of teams. But they're gonna end up being a playoff team as long as things currently stay as packed. And those are the two teams that I would just keep an eye on moving forward in the Eastern Conference. But that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Peer Review Podcast. Please share the podcast with your friends and family, as well as follow us on X at peerreview_pod and on TikTok at Peer Review Podcast to stay up to date with our latest episodes and releases. This is the Peer Review, signing off.